Hello, Probers.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast brought to you by two former MIBs. Two former MIBs who said fuck the system and decided that the world needed to know about the extraterrestrial invasion upon us all these years.
F the system.
Each week we bring you a case from the depths of the MIB archives. I'm your host for the week. I'm your host this week, the bestest of friends and the king of the street grannies, Granny L. Moonwalker.
You have said that in a Scottish accent.
Granny.
But L is distinctively un-Scottish-like.
I know.
You slag.
And sitting opposite me is the grey one, the tall one, the sleepy one, Sally. Some call him Kevin. I call him Kevin the Grey. There are times in life when you look up into the sky and you see something unimaginable. Most of the time, you're just looking up at the giant that is Greybeard.
I thought you were starting the case there, but my mind realised about 6 words into that sentence.
What? Times in life
10
when
words. Once you said look up into the sky, my mind was like, we're not starting yet, are we? I want to start a bloody episode.
All right, calm down.
What'd you call me, Sally?
I was about to say, there are times in life
when you look up in the sky.
This week, we're heading to Sweden.
Ooh.
There's a lot of famous things that have come from Sweden. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Freddie Lundberg,
Hey.
IKEA, meatballs, and growing up, Eureka Johnson, and more.
Eureka, ka, ka, ka. Meatballs from IKEA. Have you had them?
Never had them. Never been to IKEA.
A big thing about them. They weren't bad, but I have had them and I would say they're pretty average.
Overrated now?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if they were ever underrated.
The bum is on the Swedish.
Swedish? Is that what that's from?
Yep.
I'm glad you said that, because I might not have clicked that. I hadn't even gone down to the notes. My bum is on the Swedish. I bet that would be so non-funny if we were to go back and watch that now.
100%.
But as children, that was hilarious.
Just watch it now and sit there like, why did we find this so funny? Bum is on the rail.
All right, that is a little bit funny.
The date is July 1999. July 27th, 1999.
Specific details.
A pivotal day on this place that we call home, Earth. It was a pleasant afternoon. Birds were singing, children were laughing, and people were generally having a good time.
Summer holidays.
This is a beautiful summer kind of day. Adults day drinking, sunbathing, generally having a good time.
Starfishing in a paddling pool.
Hell yeah. That was all until something happened.
What happened?
Those that were day drinking suddenly stopped. Something major had happened. All the kids laughing and playing in the streets stopped what they were doing. Some stayed and some ran away because something had happened.
What happened?
Those that were sunbathing were no longer bathing because of the shit that was going down. Something had happened.
What happened?
Birds may have stopped singing, but they probably continued, either unaffected by what happened, or they just had ginormous birdie balls and didn't give a shit. But something had happened.
This is going to be a case that's like one line long, isn't it? You just extended and extended. There was a flash in the sky. The end. Something. Oh, Jesus Christ. We could go day drinking at any time well, not any time, outside of working hours We have a pub that's literally like a minute from mine and about 10 minutes from yours.
The problem is, during the day is always working hours.
Well, you have Sundays off, don't you?
I was going to say, you're generally Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
I'm Monday to Saturday and occasional paperwork Sunday. So it's very rare that day drinking can occur. And you also have
I feel like
sweet little baby Elton.
Sweet baby Elton. Take her with us. I need to find out.
Do it.
It's easier to take the dog with me than it is the baby, because I can't breastfeed the baby. She has tried, but it doesn't work. But I can't really leave my partner with both the dog, the young dog, and the baby.
Well, let's set it up and go day drinking then.
Indeed. The dog does get bored after about an hour.
As I said before, something had happened.
This whole section is just something happened.
Something that would break the peacefulness of the skies and cause waves. Something had happened.
I feel like I know what the next line is going to be.
A giant cigar-shaped object burst into view like a bat out of hell, with a scream-like sound as the object headed towards everyone and ultimately crashed straight into the lake.
God damn.
Lake Backsjon. I nearly said Blackson again.
Lake Backsjon.
Lake Black...
Backsjon? Black Sun?
Lake Backsjon.
Backsjon?
Something had happened.
Back there again.
The cigar-shaped craft was unlike any cigar-shaped craft we've encountered before, though.
Oh, really?
Because you see, this cigar-shaped craft had wings.
I was going down in the notes there and I saw a bunch of Red Bull cans and I was like, it was shaped like a Red Bull can? I'm with you. So Lake Backsjon.
It's Backsjon or Backsjon. I couldn't find the pronunciation of it, but it's literally Backsjon with a J between the S and O.
Were there a lot of people around this lake?
There were witnesses.
Were they people?
Birds, children, sunbathers, day drinkers.
And then something.
They saw something
happen.
Had happened.
Okay.
The police.
Hold on. We didn't cover the bit we finished that had wings.
Good spot.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was a bit underneath. I was only down to the photo.
Several witnesses that saw the craft had said that it was approximately 15 feet in length and 5 foot wide, while several other witnesses disagreed. The craft was big enough to cause the water to rise high into the air, similar to the splash of a majestic Antarctic blue whale landing back into the ocean after leaping out. The craft would then disappear out of sight. Something had happened.
Well, that's pretty freaking crazy. 15-foot roughly craft. I mean, what's the point in disagreeing? Unless you're going to say like 15 foot versus say 150 feet. If you're talking 15, it's actually 10. Oh, it's 20. Who gives a shit? Yeah, it's a rough estimate, isn't it? You don't need exact science when you're seeing something in the distance. So the craft crashed into the water and then popped back out and disappeared.
Didn't pop back out. Crashed. Caused a wave or water to fly up into the air.
Oh, sorry. And the water crashed back down, but the craft never came back out. Yeah. It's in the lake. Someone better retrieve this mother trucker.
The police were notified about what had happened and they came running.
Because something
had happened.
No.
The area was cordoned off. Witnesses were questioned. More witnesses were questioned. Words were written down. Pens possibly ran out. And then the police left. And that was that.
Is that the whole case?
Because something had happened. Later that same year, only 4 to 5 weeks later in August, an organisation with more authority than the police arrived. This group looked like they meant business, and after some careful digging into the archives and reading the following sentence on the research page, I can conclude that this group were from several groups, not just one. You see, because something had happened. We have the Swedish military, the security police, and the rescue service. And there are some pictures of the three groups for you there. Not necessarily the groups that turned up on the scene, but the three groups.
Okay, so that's the military, that's the police. That looks weirdly familiar, that middle one. From a film or just random?
I have no idea.
You've just shown me random photos of the police and the military.
Yeah, those specific ones. Swedish military, Swedish security police, and Swedish rescue service.
But not the people actually involved in this incident?
No.
Okay.
You'll find out why.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Something had happened.
These three teams would search Lake Backsjon. They would focus on a small target area to start, but the size of the task at hand would soon dawn on them. So they left to come up with a plan. And that plan
Involved jam.
is Operation Sea Find.
Cleverly named plan. No one had a clue what it was going to do.
This was commenced on September 13th. It would appear that they knew something was there, and they were going to find it. Not only find it, but retrieve it. Was that your stomach?
My tummy's got the rumblies.
Something had happened.
And they knew that something had happened. How did they know? Do we cover that later?
Well, they've got the reports from the witnesses and the police.
So they didn't have like radar data.
Not that we're aware of.
But did they?
But did they?
Interesting that three separate groups would turn up rather than just like the Coast Guard if they heard a report.
So
Lake Guard.
I think the police turned up
Fire?
first and they told one of the groups, and they're like, we need to get the others involved.
We need some backup.
So I think that's what happened.
Okay. Well, if a craft crashed into the lake, they better find something here, because the craft ain't disappearing by itself, is it?
Locals would attempt to come down and see what was going on, but were shooed away, being told that there's nothing to see here. Move along, people. The public was informed that this was just a routine training exercise.
Sure.
But the more people questioned, the more the training cover story would start to uncover, because something had happened.
I do understand that something had happened.
But do you understand that something had happened?
I can confirm that I do understand that something had happened.
But do you understand
I do.
the reasoning for something happening?
Christ's sake.
The reasoning for the training exercise kept changing. From training to keep units sharp to another excuse, and that was due to a bunch of robberies of government facilities, whilst another said there's a concern the object might be a foreign surveillance. Operation Sea Find consisted of over 10 different units, all of them using top-of-the-range equipment to search for the cigar-shaped object. The search wasn't a small search and lasted for several days, and then out of nowhere, like Randy Orton, the search stopped. To search the entirety of the lake, it would have taken over a year,
Whoa.
but they were done. The training was complete. Officially, they didn't find anything of any significance.
Oh, shit, maybe they did. Who knows? Not me. How big was this frickin' lake if it was going to take a whole year to explore it?
If you give me 5 ticks of a tickety-boo, I will let you know.
I'm just thinking, like, when that flight MH370 went down, they had the radar, sonograph, whatever the hell it was, the device that was being floated to detect what was on the ocean floor. Now, I'm not saying that could cover the whole ocean in that instance, but if they use something like that in this instance, surely you must be able to do a lake quicker than a year. Surely. Maybe they found it. Was anyone watching them at the point they stopped?
Not that I am aware of. Hold on, I'm just trying to find the information that you required.
Damn right, I require it.
Annoyingly, it's not telling me the size of the lake. Looks bloody massive, though.
And I suppose they didn't have a clue whereabouts it went down from the witnesses that saw it.
No, they don't. Bear with me one second. I will send you a picture of the lake.
Okay, yeah, that is pretty big. Bloody hell.
Right, I'll now show you a picture of the lake and not my penis.
What's that dot in the middle?
The craft.
There's land in this lake. It's got islands. It's a bloody ocean. The size of that thing. So it's several thousand meters.
However big, it would have taken over a year.
But they pulled out pretty quick, so the indication is that either they ran out of funding or they found something.
The military would express surprise that they didn't find anything, which is strange, considering this is a training exercise.
That is weird.
Could the reason they didn't find anything be because the craft actually used a portal under the water to travel elsewhere? Or is the craft still sat at the depths of Lake Backsjon?
Of the two, I vote that one.
Now this is the part of the probe where something happened. And we turn to science and skepticism. There's nothing here to delve into science-wise with enough meat and potatoes. But let's look at the skepticism. And that revolves mainly due to the shape of the craft. Because a cigar-shaped object with wings could simply be called a plane. However,
have we never put that together?
Due to there being no information about a missing plane, we can only assume that one wasn't missing. But to assume would make an ass out of you and me. So let's assume. The terrible cover-up of a training exercise. This could have been genuine, and people have made up the stories to suit their narrative or story. Or is it truly a terrible cover-up? So to summarise, we have the case of Lake Backsjon, where something happened. A cigar-shaped object with wings would fall from the skies and into the lake. Multiple witnesses would see the object and the police would be notified. They did their short investigation and then seemed to hand it over to the bigger boys, who would search the lake and then realised that they needed more and more bigger boys. They searched the lake for a few days, all the while telling the public it was just a training exercise, before giving up and saying that they found nothing of any significance during a training exercise. So, what do you believe, Grey Nuts? Do you believe that an alien craft is sat at the bottom of Lake Backsjon? Or was this just a training exercise?
What?
Do you believe that something happened?
I do believe that something happened. I don't feel like the retrieval was necessarily a training exercise, because it's very bizarre to then comment on finding nothing, as you say. What I'm wondering is whether the training exercise was actually the craft that was flying through the sky, like an experimental jet, for example, and that crashed, and then they couldn't find the debris because it had hit the ocean floor and completely destroyed itself. But then no bits washed up. Well, I don't feel like it was aliens because no bits were recovered or washed up.
What if you went with your portal theory?
That wasn't my theory. I'm just thinking over in my head why there were no bits if anything crashed.
I suppose it would depend on
what it was
what
that
it
crashed.
was.
Okay, maybe it was like a test satellite kind of thing there were less bits to break off. It was just like a little, like how you see what astronauts would return to Earth in, the little capsules. Maybe it was something like, but then you said a craft with wings.
What if the parts that did break off
Doesn't add up.
weren't buoyant?
Everything just hit the floor. Well, how strong is the tide in this lake?
Does
it have a tide?
I don't know. I suppose I was about to say, what's the nitrogen
that might be why
levels
nothing washed up
of the lake? Nitrogen bubbles sunk whatever was there. Same way with the Bermuda Triangle.
Maybe this lake isn't very populated. It's not one of these lakes where you can go and do like aqua sports and that kind of thing. People don't hang around it at all times, day and night throughout the year. And so the military got on there before anyone else really got there to examine the area, and they recovered the experimental tech that went in there.
Yeah, might have done that during the night.
That feels more likely. Weird to announce that you haven't found anything if it was a training exercise, as we said.
Absolutely.
That feels really, really unusual. Yeah, not aliens. I'm going for military weirdo shit going on. Just a bizarre one to cover up.
I do wonder if the stuff about it being a training exercise didn't come from the military. Maybe came from those that wanted to add some skepticism to it.
Yeah, okay. Well, even so, I'm going military here.
Just some intrigue.
Something military happened.
Me, myself, I'm going with military test. I believe that they tested something, it went into the lake, and then the police, once they realised what they were dealing with, just handed it over and was like, whatever you were testing has fallen into this lake.
Yeah.
And people think it's this, etc., etc. And they can't let people know they're testing stuff, so they were like, it's a training exercise. Then I think maybe individuals got hold of it and were like, oh, I got told it was this, I got told it was this, where they were just told one thing, or they weren't told anything, and then people just made up assumptions from having no information.
Yeah. If you don't give people the information, they will fill in the blanks.
And that is it for today's probe. It's clear and obvious that nothing happened.
I really thought you were going to say something happened there.
Thank you for joining us for this week's probe. You can find us on all socials except TikTok at But It Was Aliens. That's Facebook, Instagram, and then Twitter. We have our Facebook group, Extraterrestrial Towers, and for less than a cup of coffee, you can gain access to Side Probes, the spin-off of But It Was Aliens, where we cover things outside of the extraterrestrial. Rasputin's dick, reincarnations, hypno dogs, ghost dogs, poltergeists, and much, much more. Remember, the truth is up there. #. Fucking hot.